What's good, Deck Gang? This is yet another jam-packed Steam Deck news roundup, and I really want to talk about the next-gen level update from Valve now that we're seeing ray tracing for the first time on the Steam Deck. Not to mention there was a petition that was created by another DeckTuber, and it generated a ton of buzz even outside of Steam Deck circles, but honestly, I'm not sure we're ready to hear the truth about that one. But before those topics, I have a bunch of other Steam Deck news to fire through, so we're going to get through all the smaller stuff first. Let's get into it. First up are a couple of game deals you should be aware of. This one is a standalone bundle from everyone's favorite, Humble. It's the Humble Heroines bundle, and the two standout stars for me are Control Ultimate Edition and Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. These are both must-play games in my opinion, and you can get them alongside 6 other excellent titles for $15. Keeping with Humble is their new Humble Choice from March, which is their $12 subscription. That subscription, by the way, is extremely no fuss. You can cancel it or even skip it whenever you want. I've been subscribed for over 2 years, and I just pause it whenever I'm not interested in that month's selection. In any case, this month is a pretty good one where the two standouts are Biomutant and Jurassic World Evolution 2, but I really want to call out Demon Turf. Demon Turf is a brilliant 3D platformer that has a wide array of movement mechanics like Mario 64, and the historical low price for that game is like $10, so if that's something you've had your eye on, this month's Humble Choice is a good way to get it. I have affiliate links for both of those in the description if you do want to support the channel. With the game deals out of the way, let's talk about some of Valve's updates for this month. First is the latest interview with Valve about the Steam Deck, this time from Rock Paper Shotgun's James Archer. This interview was conducted as part of a celebration of the Steam Deck's 1-year birthday, and it offered a look back and a look forward at the Steam Deck and eventually a Steam Deck 2. When looking backwards, they really stressed the impact of the thriving Steam Deck community with things like emulators, boot videos, scripts, and strange accessories or add-ons. They said, quote, "The most surprising thing to me has been the variety of use cases we've seen. We certainly intended for the Steam Deck to be flexible and let you play how you want, but what we've seen come out of the community continues to blow our minds," end quote. Speaking of community editions, I forgot to let you know that the Fan to Deck boot videos are now available on SteamDeckRepo.com. I have dark mode and light mode, and I have boot videos that boot both into the main home UI or the lock screen UI. I'll leave links in the description, and there are instructions on how to set it up when you follow those links, so check it out, and don't forget to leave a heart on those videos so other people can see them too. Back to the interview, they also mentioned the Steam Deck 2 and how that's at least a few years off. The Fox made a really good fact-based video to support why we won't be seeing a Steam Deck 2 anytime soon, and I highly suggest you check it out, but the gist of course is there's just not enough of a performance bump to warrant a generational upgrade. Not to mention that we know that Valve continues to work on a VR headset, and they likely wouldn't want to work on 2 hardware launches like that simultaneously. One last related thing I want to call out from that interview is that Valve mentioned that they think the Steam Deck as it is strong enough to be a, quote, solid target throughout the generation, but the work involved is trickier than the typical deck UX tweaks that developers have had to do for games that already perform well, end quote. We've noticed that pattern already where more and more demanding games are being released, and so it seems that developers will have to be more intentional about targeting the Steam Deck in the future, and that relates to the petition we're talking about later on. But yeah, we're going to be really starting to see which developers are serious about supporting the Steam Deck and which are just not willing to put in that extra effort as the next few years go by. I'll leave a link to the interview and to the Fox's video in the description in case you want to learn more about these subjects. As far as software updates from Valve, they pushed some new drivers to the preview channel to fix graphical issues that were happening in the new Chainsaw demo for Resident Evil 4. It's still somewhat rough on Steam Deck. Performance varies quite a bit depending on what sort of area you're in. Dimly lit tight corridors that are heavy on lighting effects and shadows, those are going to get frame rates in the low 30s. Open combat areas can reach as high as 60 until the combat actually begins, at which point it will dip down into the low 40s. Fiddling with the settings and setting a cap of 40 should be fairly doable, but you'll still see heavy dips in the areas that do a lot with lighting and shadows. The demo itself is absolutely fantastic, and I can't wait for the full release. If you want to play it on the Steam Deck, make sure to set your Steam Deck update channel to preview and grab the latest software update. Valve has also now rated 8,000 titles as playable or verified on the Steam Deck, which is an incredible milestone. If a gaming console has 2,000 titles released in its lifetime, that is a staggeringly high number. Steam Deck now officially has 4 times that number just outside of its first year. Outside of the Steam Deck, Valve are also working on a huge update to Counter-Strike Global Offensive. Not only will this version of CSGO be built on Valve's Source 2 engine, but it'll also support updated matchmaking as well as 128 tick servers, or perhaps even a tickless solution for the ultra-competitive players. Clearly, Valve has been staying busy, but they're not the only ones. Subnautica received the patch that made it verified, Steam Deck HQ noted that DLField Chronicle quietly removed Denuvo, and Resident Evil 5 removed Game for Windows Live. awesome stuff all around that'll make these games better on Steam Deck. Speaking of Steam Deck HQ, they also did an emulator update roundup for last month, and that is pretty awesome. A few standouts from those emulators include Dolphin getting new culling logic that can help the performance of games like Metroid Prime and Twilight Princess. Yuzu gets a new turbo mode that is actually not recommended for Steam Deck because it draws a lot of power, but it could be something to try when you're docked. And finally, February was the month where PCSX2 got a Vulkan update, so it would be a good time to revisit your PS2 library. On the subject of retro games, SDHQ covered this definitive Sonic Steam Deck guide by Twitter user Sonic Forces. It goes in depth on the definitive way to play each and every Sonic game you can play on the Steam Deck. I love this sort of stuff because when I revisit retro games, I tend to go for the definitive experience, stuff like mouse injection into first-person games, modernized controls, or improved writing. So yeah, if you plan on playing some Sonic games, make sure to look at this guide first. And as an aside, there was a recent mouse injection mod for Shadow Tower, a classic PS1 RPG developed by From Software. I do want to dig into the back catalog of the makers of Dark Souls and Elden Ring, so this is definitely something I'm going to want to try on the Steam Deck. And with that, let's talk about the two biggest stories. Actually, one more thing real quick. This video should be the one that gets me to 50k subscribers, so thanks to all of you for getting me there. And if you're enjoying this video so far, be sure to hit that like and subscribe. All right, enough of that. Ray tracing is now available on the Steam Deck for Doom Eternal, at least on the beta channel. This is kind of awesome because it marks a next-gen level update for the Steam Deck. When comparing the performance of the deck to consoles, I often compare it to the PS4, especially when I speak to people that are exclusively console gamers. That doesn't tell the whole story for a number of reasons, but one of those reasons is that the Steam Deck APU is much more modern and therefore has a more modern instruction set that is capable of ray tracing at the hardware level, whereas PS4 does not have this as an option. Crysis has ray tracing on the PS4, but it had to be implemented on a software level. In any case, Gardner Bryant did a great job of covering this, and he noticed that not only are there real-time reflections in the blood that's been pulled on the floor, but there's also environmental reflections, bounce and fill lighting, and subsurface scattering. And it performs well too, staying above 30 FPS with ray tracing on. I guess it should be no surprise that this does perform well considering Doom Eternal is a model game when it comes to optimizations. It seems safe to say that many other games won't reach 30 FPS with ray tracing on by default, but it shows what's possible if developers are willing to go the extra mile when it comes to optimization. Technically, this is not the first time we've seen ray tracing on the Steam Deck since it has been available on Windows for some time, but this marks the first time it's available on Steam OS, which is in fact an incredible milestone. For me, this is still more of a novelty since I would prefer to having the frames over the fancy reflections, but I'd be happy to try this on games like Quake 2 RTX or Doom RTX to be able to experience these classics in a new way. What about you? Will you be trying games with ray tracing enabled, or are you going to stick to higher frame rates? Let me know in the comments. And then we come to the petition to support Destiny 2 on the Steam Deck. This was created by Timo, also known as the Deckverse guy, who has made videos that dive deep into performance tuning on the Steam Deck. I'll leave a link to his channel in the description. The petition outlines why Linux, and more specifically Steam Deck support, should be a no-brainer for Bungie. Importantly, it points out a few things that make the lack of Steam Deck support look like not just a missed opportunity, but also potentially the result of malicious neglect on the part of Bungie for dedicated fans. The key points of the petition are: 1. BattlEye has communicated easy and straightforward Linux support dating back to before the launch of the Steam Deck. 2. Other big multiplayer games like Ark Survival Evolved have gone on to utilize that support for Linux. 3. Destiny 2 is actually known to be playable on Linux because that's how it ran for the Stadia port, and 4. Bungie themselves attempted to gather feedback and interest in a potential port to Steam Deck. This petition gained enough traction to be picked up by major outlets like GameRant, and it has nearly reached its target of 1,000 signatures. I don't think Bungie has necessarily been as negligent as it was made out to be in the petition, but I think the whole situation has been pretty bizarre. The Stadia port doesn't mean much to me because it's very much a sandbox environment, but the other bits of information are a little bewildering to say the least. Bungie has attempted to gather feedback, and I've reported in the past on credible rumors that made it seem like a Steam Deck port was in fact being planned. Furthermore, the situation around easy anti-cheat on Linux has been a little weird from the beginning. While Destiny 2 uses BattlEye and not easy anti-cheat, I think back to when Tim Sweeney thanked Valve for their effort in getting EAC working on Linux, and then later came back to cast doubt on how effective EAC for Linux really is when he was asked about making Fortnite available on Linux. To be honest, I think it's a little more complicated than Tim Sweeney not wanting to have his game on a rival's platform. I think Destiny 2 and other anti-cheat games still holding out on Linux compatibility show that there's a bit of an ugly truth we might have to accept. For some reason, game developers don't think it's safe to enable anti-cheat on Linux. That's despite the fact that there are plenty of cheaters on Windows, and I don't think these cheaters would be that attracted to moving to Linux just to get their cheating jollies on. Despite that ugly truth, I think it's more important that we make our voices be heard, so make sure to sign that petition so that we can reach 1,000 signatures and beyond, because whatever the reason that developers are holding back, we can help to counteract that by letting them know what we want. Real quick, we're in a bit of a release drought, but there are a couple of notable titles released. Wo Long wasn't the only Souls-like that released to middling reception. It's joined by Bleak Faith Forsaken, which honestly looks promising, but it has received mixed reviews by Steam users. The reviews do make it seem like it has incredible potential with a few quality patches, so that's something to keep an eye on for sure. The Return to Castlevania DLC for Dead Cells is genuinely worth the cost of entry for the soundtrack alone. Overall, it's more Dead Cells, so don't pick this up looking for too much of a twist on the classic formula. Hellscreen was a surprise release for me last week. This is a Metroidvania boomer shooter with the very clever gimmick of having a rear view mirror that can reveal hidden enemies and hidden paths alike. I've played a bit of this and the game is off to a great start, so it's something that I would personally recommend. Likewise, Mile High Taxi releases today, and this game is inspired by Crazy Taxi and takes place in a futuristic Fifth Element sort of setting. I've given this a try here leading up to release, and it's got potential, but it's still a little rough around the edges. Driving in 6 degrees is pretty cumbersome, and the collision detection is a little too unforgiving for my taste. The main song fits well into the Crazy Taxi style of music, but the other tracks were pretty unengaging. Still though, I really like this take on the Crazy Taxi formula, and I hope to see a couple patches shore up what is otherwise a really fun arcade style game. By the way, I have to skip the community spotlight today because I'm short on time, but if you want to see how important I think the community is, be sure to check out my video where I call it the Steam Deck's unique strength. Deck Gang out. Goodbye!